A few months ago, I had an encounter that disturbed me deeply. I met a military intelligence warrant officer, a 351 counterintelligence technician, who was being held up for deployment because he was on Ritalin, an ADHD drug. From the moment I walked into the room, I could tell something was wrong. He was twitchy, nervous, and strange. His fingernails were chewed down. His emotions flared up unpredictably, and he looked like he just drank 20 energy drinks or was about to explode in a steroid rage. He couldn't make normal, appropriate eye contact, and he was unstable in a way that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Here's the truth. Even as a retired Green Beret, I felt uneasy being in a room with him. He was a danger to the mission, to his fellow soldiers, and to himself. But instead of asking the obvious question, when are we processing this guy out of the Army? The discussion was about whether or not he should be allowed to deploy, and that blew me away. We've become so accustomed to drug-dependent mental cases that we actually let them stay in uniform. We arm them, and we give them access to weapons and to top-secret information. This is insanity, and this is why I'm making this video, because drugs in the military are a clear and present danger. Let me explain my perspective. I hate drugs, not in the abstract, but in practice. I've seen too many lives destroyed by them. As a Green Beret, I've spent years fighting and training others to fight the war on drugs in Latin America. I saw cartels tear apart entire communities. I saw bright young men waste their futures. I saw families ripped apart by cocaine, heroin, and meth. But while I was battling illegal narcotics overseas, something different was happening here at home. A quieter drug epidemic was taking root in our schools, neighborhoods, and now in our military. Not street drugs, but prescription stimulants and behavioral drugs. Ritalin, Adderall, mood stabilizers, pills prescribed to kids by the millions. Illegal drugs ruin lives quickly. Prescription drugs ruin them slowly by creating dependency. And now, that dependency has crept into the armed forces. So what does the Department of Defense actually say about ADHD medications in military service? On paper, the rules are strict. ADHD by itself is not disqualifying, but if you've taken medication like Ritalin or Adderall in the last 1 or 2 years, you're disqualified from enlistment. If you need academic accommodations after age 14, or if your ADHD seriously interfered with performance, you're also disqualified. This makes sense. The military needs people who can function without chemical crutches. And the 24-month grace period is also a good idea. This is because many young kids had terrible and lazy parents who allowed the kids to live off of sugar and television stimulation. When they finally realized that they don't need psychotic drugs, it takes a few years to get them normalized. But there's a loophole. Waivers. Each branch can issue waivers to candidates who don't meet the standards. If you've been off your meds for a year or two and you can show stable performance, you can get a waiver. And here's the problem. ADHD waivers are now among the most common medical waivers the military gives out. Instead of being rare exceptions, they become routine, which means large numbers of medicated or recently medicated recruits are making it into uniform. This isn't speculation. The numbers are real. A few years ago, over 41,000 active duty service members carried an ADHD diagnosis. That's about 3% of the active force. And when it comes to new accessions, the Pentagon reported over 52,000 medical waivers issued in a single year across the services. And ADHD was one of the top reasons. Almost half of ADHD waiver requests are denied. But that still means tens of thousands of people with significant ADHD histories and often medication dependence are allowed into the ranks. So right now, we have tens of thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who either rely on stimulants or who just came off them. And that's not a small problem. That's a force-wide issue. Now let's compare this to our allies. The United Kingdom has about 0.5% of kids on ADHD meds, Germany around 2%, France around 0.3%, Netherlands, roughly 3 or 4% even at its peak, and Canada around 4 to 5%, and the United States, that's between 8 and 10%. One study found that North America consumes ADHD medication at a rate 6 times higher than Western Europe. And it's not because Americans have more ADHD. Prevalence is similar worldwide. The difference is cultural. In the United States, we like to throw medicine, not parenting, at the issue. And that difference matters, because when our allies recruit 18-year-olds, they aren't pulling from a generation raised on pills. But we are. This means that we're feeding prescription dependency directly into the military pipeline. Well, why does this matter? Why is it dangerous? Because drug dependence undermines readiness, judgment, and reliability. Weapons misuse. A soldier who is jittery, anxious, or crashing from stimulants is unsafe with a rifle. One negligent discharge can kill a teammate. One mistake with weapons safety can cost lives. Mishandling classified information. Erratic emotion or poor focus don't mix with top secret intelligence. An unstable officer or analyst is a security risk. Volatility is a weakness adversaries can exploit. Mission readiness. Imagine a deployment where supply chains fail, ammo and food make it through, but meds don't. Suddenly, troops who rely on stimulants can't focus or perform. That's not a deployable force. The military bans illegal drugs because impairment is unacceptable. But somehow we've convinced ourselves that impairment from legal drugs is okay. But it isn't. So how do these troops stay in uniform? Well, the answer is waivers. Here's the conflict of interest. Military doctors prescribe these drugs. Those same doctors or their system are involved in granting waivers for deployment and security clearances. That's like asking the local cocaine dealer if cocaine is safe. It's like asking the ice cream shop owner if it's okay to be fat. The answer will always be yes. And on top of that, commanders often get sidelined. Even if they see instability or danger in a troop, the medical bureaucracy decides if the soldier stays. Recruiting quotas and retention goals push the system towards approval, not rejection. Standards erode, and the force suffers. So what's the fix? It's actually not that complicated. Stop waving dependence in. If you need stimulants to function, you don't belong in the military. Period. 24 months without drugs seems like a good policy. This should not be waived just so our recruiting numbers brief better. Standards should be enforced, not negotiated or waived. Separate troops who develop dependence. If you're in the military and you develop a need for daily psychiatric drugs, then you need to leave. The mission comes first. The US military is designed to fight and win wars. It's not a medical welfare state. Use non-drug solutions. Discipline, structure, fitness, and sleep are the best medications for focus. The military already has these tools. They just need to use them and empower our NCO Corps to enforce them. Reinforce deployability standards. If you need medication while deployed, then you are a security risk to your unit, and you should be considered non-deployable. Non-deployable should mean non-retainable, so kick them out of the military. Empower commanders. Leaders must have authority to remove unstable troops. If a soldier's a liability, leaders should be able to act decisively. At the end of the day, the military is not a social experiment. It's not therapy, and it's not welfare. It exists for one reason: to fight and win wars. And wars are won by warriors who don't need pills to get through the day. Drugs in the military are a clear and present danger. We've let standards slide. We've let dependence creep in, and we've convinced ourselves that it's normal. But it's not normal, and it's not safe. If you want to serve as the strongest version of yourself. Don't lean on chemical crutches. Build discipline, fitness, and resilience the right way. Remember this: our nation needs warriors, not dependents. If you want to be a part of the solution, commit to being drug-free, disciplined, and deployable, because life is a special operation, and you better be ready for it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to join my Life is a Special Operation team. And don't forget to forward this video to a friend or family member who needs to see it. Life is a special operation. Be the hero.